Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Of course, with season 3, we saw a ton of weapon changes go live with all sorts of different ranges. We saw some close range updates, a lot of sniper updates, just in general a ton of tuning. And per usual with the launch of a new season, we got to go over the new top 10 best loadouts to be using. That's exactly what we're doing here today. As we go through them all, if you enjoy the video at any point, let me know by dropping a like on it. Would be seriously appreciated. And if you're new here or if you have not already subscribed, right around 54% of viewers watching are not subbed yet. And every single day I got you covered with all things going on in COD. So feel free to hit that sub button and turn on those post notifications. Also, right now my G Fuel discount code WHosImmortal is actually boosted to get you 30% off your entire order as opposed to that normal 10%. So if you want to grab anything at all from the G Fuel site, a new shaker cup, a starter pack, a new tub, anything at all, code WHosImmortal has you covered. All right, so first things first, let's get my regain loadout out of the way, because this is one that I have on all my classes. Like, it's always going to be on my loadout list, but I'm only using it if I'm trying to get a restock as a perk and, get that all set up, or if I'm coming back from a gulag and this is like my last resort class. This is not one that I'm going to use to drop a PR, this is just there if I absolutely need it. In this case, I'm using the automaton. It's a solid ranged weapon here in season 3, both on Rebirth and on Caldera. Honestly, it's not the fastest, craziest killing gun in the game, but it gets the job done and it's very, very easy to use. My setup here is pretty standard for a Vanguard rifle. MX silencer obviously going to help out with the control, going to keep us off the mini map. You love to see that. 600mm barrel is going to give us that best control possible, and this really minimize that recoil. I'm loving the 3-6 times scope on pretty much all my Vanguard ranged weapons. Nice and easy to use, super easy to trace and track players with that. Padded stock obviously going to help out with the control a little bit. Tight grip also helping out with the control. The big part of this setup, fully loaded, going to maximize my ammo. So if I'm coming back from the gulag and I got nothing, I know I can grab this class and have max rifle ammo, which is super crucial. Polymer grip for better control, just the basic 75 round extended mag, lengthen for that better velocity, and then finally hand stop for better control as well. The secondary in this case, literally any pistol at all with fully loaded. That way I can maximize my pistol / my SMG ammo. I'm hardly ever using this in game. If I find an Armaguerra on the ground, if I find an MP-40 on the ground, I'm going to drop this for that. But at least I can maximize that ammo. In this case, for the pistol, I'm using the Strife compensator just because I have subsonic on here. I don't need to run a suppressor to stay off the map. Going for the 98mm barrel, increasing the damage. I'm not using this at range, so that doesn't matter. Rapid action trigger for a faster fire rate, an extended mag, a fabric grip for a better ADS, acrobatic for some better movement speed, and then, like I said, fully loaded. Now for perks and equipment, this is the same on all my loadouts. I'm running double time. Usually I'd be running overkill, but because this is the regain, obviously I have restock. The rest of the 9 loadouts have overkill on them. Then I also got amped for that faster swap speed. I'm always running the throwing knife for the easy finishes, and then stim for that speed boost and to regen health if I ever need it. But now getting into the main loadouts that I'm using, first one here, Cold War AK and the Welgun. This to me is now my go-to loadout for season 3. AK did not get nerfed. Things like the Bren did, the XM4 did, the Vargo did. To me, the AK is now that #1 go-to ranged weapon in the game. And the Welgun, with the slight nerfs to the Owen gun, best TTK loadout, or the main meta loadout, the slight nerf to the MP-40, the Welgun to me now stands out even more. I just love how consistent this thing is. It's also decent at some mid-range fights too, so it's a great secondary to have as sniper support or as just a basic secondary. Now, Cold War AK, the setup is super basic, the same setup that we've been using for over a year at this point, right? Grew suppressor, RPK barrel, Spetsnaz grip, 45 or 60 round mag. You could get away with either of these. Obviously in Caldera with that increased health, you probably want to go for 60. On Rebirth, you could get away with 45, but I mean, both of these, they work just fine. Then lastly, of course, we're going for the 3x optic on there as well. Super standard, super basic Cold War rifle setup. For the Welgun, nothing really changes with this loadout compared to the last couple of seasons. Obviously, first and foremost, we're going for the recoil booster for that better fire rate. For the barrel, I'm going for Shrouded. This really helps out in some of those mid-range fights, makes it a really good sniper support option, and it really doesn't hurt the mobility too much because the other attachments we got on here. I'm also going for Slate Reflector, just your basic red dot. Removing the stock here, better movement, better sprint to fire. You gain a lot of that mobility back from using the Shrouded barrel with that, so that's super nice. Also going for hand stop in this case. I'm still loving the Gorenko 40 round mags. Even over range, they're still pretty good. Gonna go for lengthened here just to help out that velocity, especially in some of those mid-range fights. For the grip, you could go for fabric or polymer. If you're not comfortable with the control just outright, go for polymer. If you like a faster ADS and you're good with control, go for fabric, totally up to you. Perk 1, going for acrobatic, and then perk 2, quick or fully loaded. Both of those work just fine. I like the max mobility setup here, so I'm going for that, but honestly, both of those are great choices. Loadout 3 here, I got the FARA, I got the Owen gun. For what it's worth, you could always mix and match these primaries and secondaries as we go through all these loadouts. They're not tethered to one another like they're a married couple, right? So you could definitely flip-flop these as you want. But FARA, I mean, the thing still has a fantastic TTK on both maps right now. Super easy to use. And again, with the nerfs to some of those other Cold War rifles, this one does sort of inadvertently become a little bit better. Same setup as always here though, basically a copy and paste of the Cold War AK, Groove Suppressor, RPK barrel, going for the Spetsnaz grip yet again here, 45 or 60 round mag, and of course the 3x optic. To no one's surprise, it's the same Cold War AR setup as always. For the Owen gun here, this is where things get a little bit interesting because there were some changes to the main meta loadout. Now, personally, I'm still going for the recoil booster to increase that fire rate. They did slightly nerf the fire rate on the rapid barrel here, went from 19% increase to 15% increase. I still think it's worth using the rapid barrel though, in my opinion, for that close range setup. Shrouded is all right, but it's no headshot damage, which is kind of unfortunate. You like to get that extra bonus because it's the biggest bonus there is. And the precision barrel is hurting your body damage. Again, I'm not really a big fan of that either. I want to keep the rapid barrel on there because it's going to increase that TTK in ways that these other two barrels won't. I'm also still going for the Slate 2.5x optic just to get that magazine out of the way. However, I also really like using the Model 47 and even the Slate reflector at times if you can deal with the magazine blocking some of your view. As always, going for the remove stock here. Also going to help maintain the control with hand stop on there as well. We're going to go for lengthened. For what it's worth, they did actually buff subsonic so that it doesn't hurt your velocity anymore. So in any of these loadouts that you're running a recoil booster on, if you want to stay off the map, subsonic is no longer a bad option by any means. You could definitely run that if you wanted to. Just keep that in mind. Also going to be going for polymer or fabric in this case as well. Same deal as before. Want that better ADS, go for fabric. Want that better control, go for polymer. Again, going for acrobatic and quick on here as well. And when it comes to the magazine, this is where things get interesting because they did slightly nerf the damage multipliers on the Gorenko mags here, which is like the go-to magazine. They did not touch the 72 round mags, the 9mm, which actually offer a better TTK over range by a decent margin now. So if you want the utmost fastest TTK, go for the 9mm 72. If you just want an easy to use Owen gun that's still going to have a pretty good TTK versus all the other meta subs, go for the Gorenko. You literally cannot go wrong here. The Gorenko is just slightly easier to use, but both of these work just fine and that you will shred with either of them. Now, loadout 4, we got the C58, we got the MP-40. This saw a slight nerf to the main meta loadout. It's still ridiculously good, and the C58 is still a heavy hitter over range. It has a little bit more recoil, but it's definitely not, unmanageable. You can easily get it down and master it and make it so that it is a powerhouse weapon. Insane headshot multiplier, it's a beast. It's just a little bit harder to use. I'd still heavily recommend it though, obviously why it's on this list. The setup though, as boring as it gets per usual. We got the basics, agency, task force, field agent, 45 or 55 round drum. Both of those work just fine. And then also the 3x optic, copy, paste, Cold War rifle. It's the same every single day of the week. And then for the MP-40, we are still going for that basic meta close range max mobility setup using the short barrel. Like I said, it got a slight nerf, but man, it is still just so good for an aggressive sub, in my opinion. Still one of the top TTKs out there. Like, yeah, it's not going to be as good as it was last season, but it's not going to be bad at all. Also going for the Slate reflector here. Going to go for the folding stock for the better sprint to fire and movement speed. I also like the skeletal underbarrel here, getting that faster ADS. Going for the Gorenko 45 round mags here, lengthened yet again. Also going for polymer or fabric, totally up to you per usual. Perk 1, all these kind of suck, so I'm going to actually end up going for steady or perfectionist in this case. Perfectionist will help out a little bit with that recoil. Steady though gives you that faster ADS strafe speed, and I kind of like that. Then perk 2, quick or fully loaded. As always, no real changes to this setup. Moving on, we got a fun one here. We got the AMAX, we got the Sten. The AMAX has one of the best TTKs in the entire game on Caldera, and for that reason, it is easily a top meta weapon. Unfortunately, it caps out at 45 rounds, but it is just as powerful as it gets, so you can make that work. And the Sten, as we talked about not too long ago, actually has one of the top TTKs out of all the Vanguard subs. Great mobility, like all around, it's just super consistent. So for the AMAX here, pretty basic setup that we've been using for quite some time. Zodiac barrel, monolithic suppressor, going for the 45 round mags, the VLK 3x optic. And then depending on how comfortable you are with the recoil, you can either go for something like the tac laser, make it a bit more aggressive and get a better ADS, or you can go for the commando forward grip, really maximize that recoil control there and make it a little bit easier to use. Totally comes down to your preference. Then for the Sten, we're kind of building it like we do these other Vanguard subs, max fire rate, max mobility, essentially. Going for the recoil booster first and foremost. Also going for the rapid barrel, going to help out with the horizontal control, which is always a nice added bonus, but then also the fire rate as well. For the optic, I'm going for the slate reflector, nice and easy there, just again, basic red dot. Gonna go for the para stock here, better sprint to fire, better movement speed. Going for the hand stop yet again, just to maintain some control. For the magazine here, pretty crucial part of this, the 45 ACP is gonna get you that most optimal TTK. Only has a 32 round mag though, so you definitely have to take that into consideration. It is very tricky to really maximize that ammo if you're playing 1-on-3, you know, 2-on-4. If you're ever in a disadvantaged situation, it can be a bit harder to use. Going for lengthened yet again here, also going for either fabric or polymer per usual, up to you. Perk 1, acrobatic again, or gung ho. Both of these are really good choices here. Gung ho obviously eliminates all sprint to fire, so you're nice and quick there. I just love movement speed, as I'm sure you can probably tell. Perk 2, quick as always. Following that, we got all Cold War weapons on this one. The XM4 and the Lapa, which is still a slappa, absolutely frying. XM4, yeah, it got that slight nerf. It is still an absolute beast for close range, medium range, long range, easy control, great velocity, can't go wrong with it. Lapa, one of the best TTKs up close and one of the few non-Vanguard subs that can still hold its own. For the XM4, no one is surprised by this setup here. It is the same as the other Cold War rifles that we just broke down, Agency Task Force Field Agent, 60 round or 45 and 3 times. It gets the job done though. And then for the Lapa, we're obviously going for Agency Suppressor. Gotta go for the rifled barrel. This is gonna give you the best TTK possible with this gun. Also going between the Tiger Team Spotlight or Bruiser Grip for mobility. You'll see why you have to go one or the other in just a moment. We're gonna go for the 50 or the 40 round mag here. Then also, unfortunately, because the iron sights suck, a red dot, so you can't go for Tiger Team and Bruiser. I think it's just mainly one or the other. I prefer Tiger Team, but it totally comes down to which you value more. If you're okay with the iron sights, run them both and you get really good mobility. Following that, we got the Vargo, we got the PPSH. I think the Vargo, well, it did see some slight recoil nerfs in this update, is easily like a top 3, top 4 rifle in the game still. It's so close to the XM4 and AK in terms of overall stats, but its control, despite getting nerfed, is still so much easier than the others in my opinion. Like, it is one of the most well-rounded weapons in the entire game, and the PPSH, hipfire or ADS is just so much fun to use. Great mobility and a super solid TTK up close. Vargo, just like all the other Cold War rifles, is going to be very boring. Spetsnaz grip, task force, cruise suppressor, 45 or 60 round mag, and the 3 times optic. Woohoo, very unique class setup. For the PPSH, I'm loving the hipfire build just so much, man. It's so much fun to use, whether you're on keys or controller. It's so unique versus all these other sub setups, and that's what I love about it. So we're gonna go for the 230mm barrel. Obviously, it's just built around hipfire. Going for the 2.5 times optic though, because we still get the recoil control and accuracy benefits from that, even if we're not ADSing. Going for the remove stock also helps out with hipfire and movement. The steady underbarrel gives us better hipfire accuracy. The Garanko mags here for the hipfire are not super ideal compared to Nambu, but if you're ADSing, you want to use Garanko. So just remember that if you're building an ADS loadout. Nambu though, for the hipfire, I'm really enjoying. Ammo here, subsonic is really good for that no velocity decrease anymore. Lengthened also works just fine, so totally comes down to preference there. You don't really get the full benefit of lengthened in this case because of hipfire, so hence why I'm using subsonic. Rear grip, we actually want to go for pine tar, better control and better hipfire accuracy. Perk 1, going for tight grip, it does still help out with the control a little bit. Then perk 2, fully loaded here, I feel like is pretty beneficial just because when you're hip firing, you might miss some more shots. You want to maximize your ammo. Now, loadout number 8, I got the STG and I got the same exact Welgun setup from before, so you don't got to go through that again. Same attachments there that we covered earlier. For the STG, this actually saw some ranged buffs in the Season 3 updates, so it's going to be a little bit more competitive there. I also like the fact that it's just easy to use when it comes down to it. So first up here, we're going for the MX silencer. Obviously, better control, better range, keeping us off the map. The 760mm barrel actually got better velocity and better range with the Season 3 updates, so it's going to feel a lot more competitive over range now, and I really do like that. For the optic here, 2.5 times is great. 3 to 6 times is my personal favorite, so I'm going to go for that, but if you have one that you're super comfortable with, run that. For the stock here, folding you could use to make it a little bit more aggressive and make it better for some medium range fights too, and just as an overall more aggressive AR. Like I said, kind of redundant. Just for straight up control though, weighted is a great option here. None of these other ones really offer too much, so it's really between folding or weighted, whichever you prefer. For the underbarrel here, obviously going for hand stop per usual, making it nice and easy. For the mag, I like the basic extended Kurz 60 round drums. I don't like anything that's increasing the damage here. And then with the 50, it just doesn't feel good enough because you're hurting your damage and your bullet penetration as well. A basic extended mag, you're never going to go wrong with that. For the ammo, obviously going for lengthened. Rear grip, we're going for polymer for the better control. Perk 1, all these are not super ideal, honestly. Like vital, you never want to use that. We've talked about that before. Reload quickness while injured is not super great. Acrobatics not bad. Sleight of hand's not bad, but they're not like super ideal for a rifle setup. Nerves to steel is while injured. Then focus for flinch resistance. So I think it's like between acrobatic and sleight of hand. Neither of them are going to be that crazy. Then perk 1, fully loaded, obviously. Or you could even use on hand for a better ADS, but I feel like max ammo is pretty solid there. Loadout 9, we got the brand new M1916 marksman rifle, and for what it's worth, neither of the two new weapons, which we're going to cover both of them in this video in the next two loadouts, are meta weapons. But as always, whenever we cover the new loadouts for the new season, I want to include the new weapons so that way you guys can have loadouts for them. This one is not anything crazy. It takes sniper ammo, which is not ideal. And it's just semi-auto weapons, as we talked about in the meta video, are never going to be that good unless they're broken in some way, shape, or form. But it's not the worst weapon in the world. And I want to make sure you guys do have a loadout for it. The Owen gun, same setup as before there. But as far as the M1916 goes, this is what I found worked pretty well when I was leveling it up. MX silencer, keeping us off the map, obviously. The precision barrel here, better accuracy and control, better velocity, reduced scope sway, and a better ADS spread. So that's all pretty solid pros there. Hurts your sprint to fire and your hip fire, which you're not really worried about on a marksman rifle. 2.5 times optic, I'm comfortable with that. The reinforced stock here, better control primarily is what I'm focusing on there. There's some other decent ones like custom here, better ADS spread. That's not too shabby, but horizontal control is not really an issue with this. Hand stop for slightly better control. The Sakura 20 round mags here, better fire rate, better headshot damage, and better control. The other options here don't really do that much for you. So I feel like the 20 round Sakura is probably the lesser of all evils here. Lengthen for better velocity. The Stippy Grippy actually for that better initial firing control if you're spamming, but also better recoil recovery where that recenter is a little bit easier. Obviously pretty solid on a semi-auto weapon. All the perks kind of suck here. I went for steady for that better strafe speed yet again, and then surplus I was using because I was leveling it up, but obviously we're going to go for fully loaded here to maximize that ammo. Like I said, this thing's really nothing special. And then lastly, we got the Nikita AVT and my main sniper now for Caldera, the ZRG. Obviously we had all the sniper nerfs. To me, the ZRG is now the one you're going to want to use for range sniping. Obviously close range sniping is kind of dead at the moment unless you're just super aggressive and really good at quick scoping with something like the CAR or the Swiss or the Pellington. The Nikita AVT here, it's a mediocre rifle at range, but it's not bad for sniper support. I think it is a competitive sniper support option, and that's why I have it here as my sniper option or my sniper support option on this loadout. So first up here, I'm going to go for the MX silencer yet again. It hurts your ADS a little bit, but it's also giving you better control across the board. This thing kind of has some awkward recoil and keeping us off the map. For the barrel, these are all kind of weird because it seems like the names are not accurate to what they are supposed to do. The rapid barrel here doesn't increase your fire rate at all, right? But to me, I was using the 548 precision barrel here, better velocity, control, range. It seems decent for a sniper support option, doesn't slow you down too much either. Gonna go for either something like the slate reflector or like the 2.5 times for some of those close range fights. The folding stock here is actually pretty solid. It doesn't hurt your control that much outside of your stabilization, but also gives you better movement, better sprint to fire, better sprint speed, and a better ADS. So that's obviously ideal for some close range fights. Under barrel, hand stop per usual. Going for the 45 round extended mag here. All these other mag options kind of suck, honestly. Like the 55 here, hurting your range, movement speed, velocity, just not overall ideal. Like I said earlier, basic extended mags you really can never go wrong with. Ammo here, either subsonic or lengthened. Because this is a rifle, it's got decent velocity as is for some of those close and medium range fights. So you could get away with using either of those. Gonna go for polymer here per usual. Perk 1, I don't really like any of these yet again. None of these are that great. I don't think perfectionist is an awful option here, so I'll go ahead and run that. Then perk 2, fully loaded or on hand for the better ADS, whichever you value more, ammo or slightly better ADS speed. Then when it comes to the ZRG, this is always a fun one because it has insane velocity over range. Going for the wrap suppressor, and then we're going to tether that with the combat recon barrel. Those two combined give you insane long range stats. We're also going to go for the 5 milliwatt laser, going to give us a better ADS time. That's pretty crucial in my opinion. I also think it's worth going for something like an airborne elastic wrap to get a better ADS and better flinch resistance. And then here's where it comes down to how you feel about the ZRG. You could use something like a 3x optic, maybe a 6x optic if you want, because the base scope here zooms in a ton. So that might not be super comfortable for you. And if that's the case, go for something like a 6x or maybe a multi-zoom, whatever optic here you want to use. If you're okay with the base optic, then you got some options. I'd probably recommend something like the Bruiser Grip to give you a slightly better move speed so that it's not super heavy. I don't feel like any of the stocks are all that great. Like they're not going to help you in super crucial areas. The magazine capacity here kind of sucks. So for another reason, I feel like if you're okay with the base optic, you go for something like a 5-round mag, because 3 is not super ideal. It really comes down to whether or not you can deal with that super enhanced zoom. Personally, I feel like it's worth forcing yourself to get used to it, because without the magazine option here, you're gonna struggle a little bit in just basic squad fights. So I feel like it's something you gotta force yourself to get comfortable with, but at the end of the day, it can be a very good sniper. For what it's worth, the HDR, the AX50, you could use basic setups for those as well in this class setup, and it would work just fine. That being said though, those are my top 10 loadouts in Season 3 right now. All beasts, all a ton of fun to use, and all will consistently help you win gunfights and win more games in my opinion. That's gonna wrap things up though. If you enjoyed the video or if you found it helpful, let me know by dropping a like on it. And if you're new here or if you have not already subscribed, every day I got you covered with all things going on in COD, so feel free to hit that sub button and turn on those post notifications. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.